All right, folks, welcome back. It's been a while, Daily Fantasy Knockout. I'm your host, Drew, as always, with my co-host, Josh. Josh, what's going on, man? It's been too long.
It has been. It has been way too long. I was looking forward to the 3-week layoff coming into this or going into it, but yeah, now I'm definitely ready for that to be over and try to watch some fights again. And this is a low-key good card to start off with before we get to 205. So excited, very excited for this main event, especially.
Yeah, man, it's kind of nice to have MMA back around. Pitt, my alma mater, sucks, so I have nothing to look forward to on Saturdays. So
Yep, they're brutal.
yeah, they're the worst ever. So yeah, looking forward to some fights. Started off with a free one this weekend, UFC Fight Night 98, Dos Anjos versus Ferguson. But before we get into that, man, it's been too long. Let's chat. What's been going on in your life?
Well, you just mentioned the Pitt thing, and yeah, I live in Virginia. We just played Virginia Tech, and I was telling everyone that Pitt was going to smoke and bet this other teacher at school. We said the standard adult bet. I'll just leave it at that. And we lost because we're terrible. So
I don't like to admit this, but I am a season ticket holder, and I was there in attendance with some college friends and my dad, as always, and it was brutal.
I see you guys on Snapchat and stuff going to every Steeler game, every Pitt game. Must be nice.
Yeah,
There.
UFC's paying the bills. Yeah, I was at the Steelers game. One of my buddies asked me to go. He has front row tickets, so I got to see the Patriots come in and beat up on the Steelers, and had a few cocktails. It was a good time. Had a good conversation with one of the news anchors from New England on the sideline, and yeah, it was a good time. So
You were chirping at him for wearing sneakers with his suit?
I wear a suit to work every day, and this jagoff has a suit with sneakers on, and I felt the need to tell him, and he made a couple inappropriate hand gestures at me, so I went after him on Twitter, and all of New England came to bat for him. So
I miss that.
Yeah, it was
not on the Twitter game unless the UFC is happening. So I need to go back and check out your mentions and feed and stuff.
There were some pretty funny ones. I had a good time with it, but yeah. Anyway, let's talk a little UFC news. What's in the news, man? Bellator tomorrow. You're more in tune with the Bellator scene than I am.
Yeah. Yeah, their main events are usually pretty solid. The rest of the card is pretty usually ho-hum, especially in comparison to UFC. But they got Liam McGeary, their light heavyweight champion, defending against Phil Davis. And that fight should be – I'm really intrigued to see just how good McGeary is. Davis got sort of gifted a decision against King Mo Lawal in his last fight to get the title shot. A lot of people thought he lost that fight. He sort of had an underwhelming UFC career. He won most of his fights. He was a top 5 light heavyweight perennially, but always he just doesn't seem to look comfortable getting hit. And McGeary hits really hard and has really good jiu-jitsu. So it'll be interesting. If Davis takes him down and submits him, then McGeary wasn't that sweet. Maybe Davis is awesome. But if McGeary knocks him out, then McGeary is a legitimate top 5 light heavyweight, regardless of organization. So it's an interesting fight. Looking forward to it. The rest of the card's kind of whatever. You got Paul Daly on there. You got Sergey Karatanov is coming into the American scene again after. He was in Strikeforce, so it'll be interesting to see how he looks at heavyweight back in America again. But mostly just looking for that main event. That should be a good one. We also got Ronda Rousey.
She's back.
Yeah,
Ronda.
Do you think that she's going to get destroyed? Why we were talking beforehand? Why do you think that?
I don't know about destroyed, but here's the thing. If you listen to Colin Cowherd, he made a very interesting point, and he's absolutely right. If you want to fight in the UFC, you got to be all in, and it's a mental game. And she's out here saying, this is definitely one of my last fights. I see both sides of it. This is definitely one of my last fights. That means, she wants to be an actress. She doesn't want to, her heart's not in this as much as it used to be. She's, going to fulfill a couple fights and then, get out of town. You got to want to be in the UFC. You got to want to be the best. And I think that could be a factor. Or on the other side, Dana White and her are saying this just to up the pay-per-view buys. It's simple as that. Oh, this is one of Ronda's last fights. I got to buy it. Boom. So we'll see what happens.
You've seen these kind of shenanigans before in your wrestling watching? Is that a thing? That's not a thing?
Wrestling? What? Never heard of it.
Dude, okay. Why are you denying?
No, I'm a full-blown wrestling fan. Ronda Rousey, after she's done with the UFC, I will bet my life she finds her way back into the WWE just like she was at WrestleMania 32, I think it was, 31? I can't remember. When she came out with the People's Champ, the great one, and tossed around Triple H and Stephanie. It's pretty dope.
All two losers who also watch WWE listening to this right now know what you're talking about. Everyone else, it's like, dude, please stop talking.
It's still real to me, damn it. Go out and watch that video if you haven't seen it.
Okay.
Anyway, speaking of the GOAT, who might be making his return.
Real quick about Ronda. You were a lot of people were thinking that I feel like there's a lot of backlash on her because she lost her last fight, and so a lot of people were like writing her off like, oh, she's not that sweet. But she like utterly destroyed every person in the division before Holly Holm. So I feel like we cannot completely count her out. Although like her training with Edmund Carter Verdian, however you say his name, worst trainer in MMA.
Targaryen.
That he wishes. And clearly he's not helping her very much. So, yeah, it'll be really interesting to see what she looks like coming back after that devastating loss and being out for a year. I feel like I got something else to say about.
I think she deserves the title fight. I mean, there's so much going on in the division. She's ran through everybody but Holly Holm. And another factor, she still has that mental edge. Like Nunes, she's fighting Ronda Rousey, and I mean, I don't know, that could mess with her. I don't know. It'll be interesting to see. I want to see. I don't know if the odds have come out yet. I assume she's the favorite, but we'll see what happens.
Yeah. Anyway, so speaking of the GOAT, GSP been in the news lately. The UFC is trying to get him a fight. We're trying to get him to come back and fight, but he's not having it because of Reebok, and he was trying to get paid a little bit more now, which is reasonable given how much of a draw and how famous and good he is. UFC doesn't want to fork over the dough, and so he says he's a free agent. What do you make of all this?
They're just puffing their chests out and seeing who backs down. He's going to be back. I really do think he'll be back. They'll work something out. He's too big of a draw. Him versus Bisping would have been cool, I guess.
Yeah, Bisping he's going all out to not.
He's trying to fight anybody.
He's trying to fight anybody not named Jacare, Weidman, Rockhold, or Romero. He's trying to fight anybody but the four best middleweights in the world. Give me Hendo. Give me Nick Diaz. Give me GSP.
Because he wants to hold on to that belt and cash some checks.
Absolutely. He knows Bisping is
He's not dumb.
Yeah, he's not a dumb man. And good on him for doing it. I'm glad that he finally gets the chance to, like, I think that we came in, or at least I came in, like, too late for his, like, real big heel moments.
And you're going to say, I'm the wrestling fan, and you're going to use heel.
Well, I'm aware of some terminology. I'll say
you're
that.
You're a mark just like the rest of us.
Yeah, so I'm, like, ever since, like, getting knocked out by Henderson, I feel like he's been this, like, underdog dude who, like, has been around the UFC, always been top 10, never got his title shot. And so I was super happy to see him, A, get a title shot, and then, B, actually win. Like, that was just an amazing moment. I know Rockhold will get back to that mountaintop because he's, like, a beast. But, yeah, I'm happy for Bisping.
All right, what else do we have on the docket here? Oh, wow, that's right. The biggest card ever, UFC 205, next week.
Yes.
All y'all better be listening. Tell your friends, tell your kids, tell your wives. Yeah, man, this card is lit, as the high school kids are saying.
Wait, say that again. What are the high school kids saying?
This is lit.
They do say that.
Yeah, everybody says it around here. This place is lit. McGregor, Alvarez, you guys know what it is. We'll talk about our picks later down the road, but top to bottom, this card is stacked.
What's your favorite fight on the card?
Oh, the main
event?
Yeah, dude. I mean, I'm a mark for wrestling. I like Conor McGregor selling fights. I like it. I like him being the badass who talks a bunch of trash. It just gets me going.
I like seeing him get his face smashed in. So
I'm not going to give my pick right now, but I got something for you next week, kid.
All right, dude.
I will be in New York City next weekend. I'm still trying to weasel my way into the fight, but I don't think it's going to happen. I'm going to go to the weigh-in zone on Friday.
No kidding, dude, because tickets are – no, actually, I had kids in class look up what tickets cost because they know that I'm weighing UFC. I can't remember what they were now, but it was something completely insane. It was like $2,600 or something bananas for tickets. Like, oh, are you going to UFC 205? I was like, no, dude, I'm a teacher. I have no money. LOL.
My girlfriend is up there for a couple months, and she works for a company that might be able to get us in. They have a box, but I'm not holding my breath. So,
I swear to God, if you're at 205,
I'm not going to tell you. I'm not going to take a single picture, and I'm not going to tell you.
Yeah, that's the smart play because I will literally kill you.
Yeah. I'm going to be sitting next to Dana with a press pass. All right. Enough banter. Let's get into it. UFC Fight Night 98. First fight of the night. Going to be real quick for you. Enrique Barzola versus Chris Avila. Barzola everywhere in this fight. Avila's last fight, who the heck did he fight?
I can't remember. No,
Lobot or Lobo or something?
Yes. I knew it was like the Connor teammate versus the Nate teammate on the same card as Connor and Nate. Couldn't remember his name. Lobot.
Barzola wants to get the fight to the ground. He's normally never been a proficient striker, but in his past two fights, he's really improved his striking game like immensely. And Avila, you and I have talked about this. We just don't think he's ready for this level yet. If it goes to the ground, he is a Cesar Gracie student, so he's got excellent ground game. But he's a boxer. He's a one-dimensional boxer, and I think Barzola is going to pick him apart on the feet. And, yeah, we're going to take Barzola in this one in all formats. Pricing, Barzola comes in at $9,500 and Avila comes in at $6,700. We really like – what type of lineup do we want to build?
We were talking beforehand that we were going to do a tournament lineup.
Okay. Yeah, we'll build a tournament lineup.
Okay.
Barzola 9,500, Avila 6,700. We really like Barzola in this, more so in cash because he is the biggest favorite on the card at -600. Not too sure about a finish because Avila is fights out of the Diaz camp and he's got a jiu-jitsu background. He's a boxer, and those guys are known for being tough and durable. So we don't know. I don't know too much about a finish here, but Barzola is going to win this fight. So he's more of a cash game play for me. Just for reference, on the old pricing model, Barzola would have been about $11,400, and Avila would have been $8,000. So on to the next one.
All right, so we got Jason Novelli versus Marco Polo Reyes. So I like Reyes in this fight. He's coming off of that absolute barn burner war. Like there's not even like a superlative great enough for that fight. The two guys, him and Maestro Dong-Young Kim, just beat the crap out of each other for 13 minutes until Reyes finally finished Kim off. It was an absolute war. Novelli had his UFC debut. I forget the card he was on, but anyway, he got knocked out by David Tamor. So I like Reyes to beat Novelli, and I like him to finish, I think, in like the second, maybe third round. Novelli, I think, just like in his last fight, I think he's the more technical striker, and he's also a really good grappler, but he doesn't wrestle nearly enough. He came into his last fight with Tamor saying that he wanted to wrestle, but didn't at all. So because he doesn't have a good wrestling game, he can't really use his grappling, and he doesn't throw enough volume on the feet, and he's too hittable. He's tall and upright, and being tall when you're not good at like maintaining distance with your jab, it can be a problem because you're just you're really, really open to overhands and power shots because your chin is just like way up there. Reyes himself is hittable, so he's not a safe play necessarily. He got hit a ton by Dong-Young Kim, but he showed a good ability to recover, and unlike Novelli, he actually throws decent volume. So I like Reyes to put hands on Novelli and to get him out of there in the middle rounds. So looking at the prices, Reyes comes in at 8,900 and Novelli is 7,300, which would equate to Reyes being about 10,700 and Novelli being 8,700.
So you like Reyes to finish here? Is that what you said?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
So we'd probably call that a GPP. I mean, for 10-7
Yeah.
and a finish.
Yeah, I think it's got to be a GBP in both ways. Like I said, Reyes is hittable and Novelli is technical. And I think if Novelli actually decides to use his wrestling, he could really do well against Reyes, who is not a very good wrestler or grappler. Sorry, my wife is being weird in the background over here. Anyway,
wife character.
Yeah, wife character. Putting in an appearance, just being weird in the background as per usual. Anyway, so looking at the odds, Reyes is the favorite at -170, and Novelli is the underdog at +150, while the over/under is at 1.5 rounds, and the over is at -140. So again, the late finish or the finish in the second or third round is what kind of seems likely according to Vegas. So yeah, GBP play both ways for me, but more exposure to Reyes because I think he's going to take this.
All right, well, we're going to build a GPP lineup, but we'll hold off for a little bit once we get diving in here a little bit, just so we have something to play with. All right, next fight of the evening is Smilin' Sam Alvey versus Alex Nicholson. Real quick here, guys. Smilin' Sam Alvey is going to storm this jabroni. Nicholson, in his last two fights, he fought Misha Cirkunov, and Cirkunov busted him up. And then after that, a second fight, he fought Devin Clark, who was one of those looking for a fight on Dana White's show. First time in the UFC. And Devin Clark manhandled him in the first round until it got up against the fence, and somehow Devin Clark got nicked with something and went to sleep. It was really, really strange. Alvey's super, super wild, aggressive. He's really sloppy. And Smilin' Sam's going to sit back there and counterpunch, and that's what he's known for. He's got some power in his hands. He's a little bit apprehensive with engaging, especially in his last fight against what's your boy Casey? What's his name? Josh?
Sorry, muted myself. Kevin Casey.
Kevin Casey, yeah.
Not my boy.
Yeah.
Off him forever.
He's his boy. Anyway, he was kind of hesitant to engage, but with Nicholson, he's not going to have that problem. He's just going to have to sit back and pretty much uncork on this guy. 18 of his 28 fights have come by knockout. Solid grappler. So we're going to take Sam Alvey in this fight, all formats. Alvey comes in priced at 9,100, and Nicholson comes in at 7,100. That equates to 10,900 and 8,500. Alvey, GPP, cash. We see a finish in the first or second round. Plug him in, move on, and get 100 points out of him. We're pretty confident in this pick.
Agreed. Good use of the word jabroni, by the way.
Thank you.
Yes.
Okay. I'm a wrestling fan.
I'm a Sunny fan. That's where I get it. But anyway, so next up we got Douglas Silva de Andrade versus Henry Briones. So I like Briones in this fight, but I think it's going to be a close one. Briones is the only guy in the UFC to go the distance with Cody Garbrandt, your boy.
Yeah, he is
Actually,
my boy. He is my boy.
So, I mean, Briones showed in that fight that he's tough, and he showed in his first fight that he is also tough, but he was getting absolutely worked to the body by Guido Canetti in his UFC debut. Got smashed with kicks and knees to the body and looked in really, really bad shape before he ended up finishing the fight by knockout in the second round, I think. But he showed in his fight with Garbrandt, his second fight, that his footwork and his composure were much better. He was flashing his jab. This is kind of a weird fight because I don't think really either guy has fought the kind of fight that he wants to fight yet in the UFC. They're both 1-1. Douglas Silva de Andrade is a good Muay Thai striker, but he doesn't have a lot of he doesn't throw a lot of volume either. Inactivity between these like blitzes of either punching combinations or trying to like grab the clinch and knee away. So in between like those big flurries, he's not really doing a whole lot. He showed decent grappling skills, but I like Briones too with his superior volume, better composure, good jab to take kind of a gritty decision. And the Vegas does not agree with me. Briones is the plus 145 dog, and Silva de Andrade is the minus 165 favorite. Looking at you there, man?
Yeah, I'm here. Sorry, I froze a little bit.
Yeah, I think that was me. Sorry about that. Hopefully this continued running, but anyway. Yeah, so Briones is 7,600 and Silva de Andrade is 8,600, which would have equated to de Andrade being about 10,300 and Briones being about 9,100. So I like Briones by decision, and I like him in cash because he's pretty cheap. The fight is supposed to go the distance, I believe. Yeah, the over-under is at 2.5 rounds, and it's at minus 155 to go over. So I'll take the dog in that, in a fight like that where it's supposed to go the distance, and we should have more volume from the underdog anyway.
I like that little salary relief. Hopefully we can get out of there with the win. All right, let's move on to the next fight of the evening, and that would be welterweight battle between Eric Montano versus Max Griffin. I'm going with Griffin in this fight. I think he's the more athletic fighter. Some people might be scared off because of his last fight. He was absolutely worked by Colby Covington, but Covington is a high-level wrestler, and he just ragdolled him. Griffin came out pretty aggressive, fought off a few takedowns, but Colby just got to him and, like white on rice, man, just wouldn't get off of him. Before he was in the UFC, he beat the living breaks off of David Mitchell, who's a UFC veteran, knocked him down 3 times. He wants to strike, and even when he was on The Ultimate Fighter, I don't know if he had a tryout or if he was in the initial, if he was on the show or if he just was in the first fight to get into the house. It was Carwin versus Lesnar, or Carwin versus Nelson, Ultimate Fighter. He wanted no part of grappling and clinching. His coaches were screaming at him to get off, break off, and throw some leather. Montano, he recently lost to Randy Brown versus third round guillotine. He's a big guy for his weight class, but Randy Brown kind of manhandled him and pushed him up against the fence, tired him out. He has a history of getting gassed. He comes out kind of aggressive. He likes to shoot in standing up a little bit. And I've noticed he doesn't really look smooth in there. He's always stiff. And I think he's an average fighter at best. He's still got some raw talent, but I like Griffin in this fight. Vegas agrees with me. They are at minus 160, and Montano is plus 130. The salary, it's a coin flip to go over under 2.5. let's see the salaries here. Griffin comes in at 8,800 and Montano 7,400. So that would equate to 10.5 and about 8.9. I like Griffin in GPPs. I'm not confident enough to play him in cash for that price tag. But he's not a must in GPPs. And as we go on, we'll talk about some more options. But for 10.6, I expect to finish, and I'm just not comfortable enough with, spending 10.6 on this guy for a finish. So my confidence level isn't too high, but if you are going to play him, throw him in GPPs. Montano, I'm personally going to fade him in both formats. I think he smells. So that's where I'm at on that.
Is that a technical term? He smells? Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Is that an industry term?
Mm-hmm. You wouldn't know.
Good stuff.
Yeah.
All right. So next up we got Joe One Bad Mofo Soto versus literally his nickname. Did not make that up.
Oh,
what his nickname is.
Oh, that got me good.
Yeah. I don't know what else to say about that. Anyway, Joe Soto versus Marco Beltran. I'm taking Soto in this one. This bantamweight fight. Beltran is another one of these TUF Latin America guys. Soto had a kind of a rough run in the UFC to start. His UFC debut was against TJ Dillashaw for the bantamweight title because whatever, like he was supposed to fight on the undercard. Renan Barão had to pull out of the title fight with Dillashaw, and so Soto stepped in, former Bellator champ at 145 pounds. Anyway, I like Soto here because he's a good wrestler, and Beltran is not very good defensively in that area. Soto has good submission skills, and I think he's going to be able to tap Beltran, who has shown that he's like improved as a striker, but he's still not excellent in that area. He doesn't throw enough volume. He gets too prone to getting back to the fence, and that's exactly where Soto is going to want him, where he can dive on a takedown. Beltran's tall and lengthy and uses that frame well in the clinch to land knees and stuff, but I think Soto is a veteran. He'll be able to avoid most of that before dragging the fight to the floor and getting submission. So I like Soto. He got knocked out pretty badly by Anthony Burchak, but showed in his last fight with Chris Beal, where he was getting lit up in the first round, that his chin hasn't gone away completely. So I like Soto to get the submission victory here. In terms of pricing, Beltran is 7,700, which equates to 9,200 in the old pricing, while Soto is 8,500, which equates to about 10,200. So he's moderately priced. Looking at the odds here, Soto is minus 125, so a slight favorite. Beltran comes back as the plus 105 underdog. The over/under is at 2.5 rounds, and the over is favored to go over. It's favored to go over at minus 125. So not, overwhelmingly likely to go to a decision. So again, for that reason, I like Soto and GBPs. I'd consider him in cash also, but not a must. I mean, he's lost a couple of close fights. Soto isn't super consistent, but and Beltran has shown improvement. So Beltran is, I think, on the wrong side of 30. So I'm not expecting him to make any giant leaps forward that would make him likely to beat Soto. So again, like I said, I like Soto possibly in cash, but I think he's a GBP target as well.
All right. Yeah, I'd agree with your analysis on that. Let's wait till the end to make our GBP lineup. What do you think about
that? Yeah, sure. Sounds good.
Yeah, let's do that. I like that better. All right. The next fight we have on the docket is Eric Perez versus Felipe Arantes or Arantes. I always forget. I listen to all the 4 fights of him, and I always forget his name. This is going to be a striking affair, and I'm going to go with Arantes on this one. I think he has more power. He's more dynamic. Should be able to catch Perez. One of the issues with Perez, he hasn't really learned his lesson. He keeps his head on the center line, doesn't really move it. He has a little bit of a dominant cruise to him where he's real jumpy and, slick footwork, and he's got this pop-up style up and down, which makes it kind of difficult for clean shots to land, but he still does get hit. I don't see much power in his hands. He's more of a, point fighter. He throws some good punches, but there's not much power behind him. He has good 3 to 4 punch combos. He's a serviceable striker on his feet, but that's about it. I haven't really seen much of his ground game, but I'm willing to bet that this fight isn't going to the ground. Orantes, he's a black belt in Muay Thai. He's very dynamic. He's super aggressive. Throws in a bunch of combinations. One of the issues is his stand-up defense is not the greatest, so Perez could put on a clinic and dance around and pick him apart from range. Wrestling, I won't really get into that. He was taken down easily in his previous fights, but he fought 2 elite-level wrestlers, Gerard Sanders, and we talked about this. What's his name? Yves Yaboyne? How do you say it? I don't know. He's a brown belt in jiu-jitsu. He wants to fight on the ground. He's won his last 2 fights via submission. He might be a little too content to play from his back. When he fought Gerard Sanders, Sanders was a real heavy wrestler, just laying on top of him. And he took a whole bunch of punishment looking for submissions and finally locked in an armbar and won the fight. But I'm going to go with Orantes in this fight. I like him to finish the fight in round 2. I'm willing to bet this is an underdog. Yep, I was correct. Orantes comes in at plus 160. Perez is minus 200. Over-under is 2.5 rounds and minus 190. It's favored to go over. So let's look at DraftKings pricing. Orantes comes in at 7,500 and Perez is 8,700. That's the equivalent to 8,900 and 10,400. I like Orantes to win this fight. He's an underdog, so he's a clear-cut GPP for me. You're looking for some under-owned guys, and he's an under-owned guy, and I think he has a really good shot at winning this fight. So I'm going to throw him in some GPP lineups. I probably will fade him in cash. Perez, on the other hand, as a hedge, since he is a favorite, I will throw him in some lineups as well. I don't know if I'll put him in cash. I'm not too sure. Like I said, I wouldn't be shocked if he picks him apart from range because, he is very defensively illiterate on the feet. But yeah, so Orantes, GPP, he's my guy.
Okay, sounds good. I like the dog pick. It's nice to have a couple of those. Not that we necessarily go out of our way to pick dogs, but it's nice when it works out that way sometimes. So good on that one?
Yep, we're good to go, buddy. Okay.
So now we get to the FS1 main card. The 6-fight FS1 main card. I heard this on another podcast I was listening to from, I think, Bloody Elbow. So shouts to them, but I thought this was really funny. They said that now on to the 6-fight FS1 main card, not to be confused by the 4-fight FS1 prelims, which come on right before it. LOL. It's like the same freaking thing. Why even call it a main card and an undercard? Anyway, thought it was funny. So we got Alexa Grasso and Heather Jo Clark in the women's strawweight division. A lot of people are really excited about Grasso. She's an 8-0, 23-year-old prospect who looks really, really good, coming in from Invicta, where she went 4-0. And a lot of people are really excited about her. And so, not just because people are excited about her, but because she's good. I'm taking her over Heather Jo Clark. I'm also not impressed, GSP style, not impressed with Heather Jo Clark's performance. She's just kind of like an all-around gamer. She's not really threatening anywhere. She's kind of in an unenviable words position right now, coming in to fight the up and coming future stars. She's just coming off of her last fight was against Karolina Kowalkiewicz, who's now fighting Joanna Jacek for the title next weekend, and she got absolutely murdered by Karolina. she didn't get finished. She's never been finished in her career. Kudos to her for that. But she got really badly beat up, and I kind of foresee the same kind of thing here. If she's not able to make the fight really ugly against the cage, she's going to get really badly lit up, because Grasso has really excellent boxing, excellent poise, just really crisp striking technique, throws in combination, has a really good jab that she flusters opponents with, mixes in occasional kicks, and has also shown a pretty good grappling game, especially when it's kind of like defend takedowns. So I like Grasso pretty much everywhere here. The only way that I could really see Clark winning is that Grasso can be hittable somewhat. She's got good head movement, but because she's throwing so much volume, she tends to get hit a good bit. And Clark has power. A knockout would be really surprising. But the other way that I think Clark could make this kind of an ugly fight for Grasso is if she just really worked on pinning her to the cage, where Grasso tends to spend too much of her time backed up against the cage. If Clark can make it an ugly clinch fight, try to work takedowns, she could make it much closer than it is on paper. But regardless of that, I like Grasso to take a decision here just by outpointing Clark. I don't see her finishing because, like I said, Clark's never been finished. But Grasso is very, very good. Okay.
Next fight.
Let's got to touch on odds and prices and stuff real quick. Sorry. So Clark is coming in at 6,900 on DraftKings, which equates to about 8,300 in the old pricing, so pretty cheap. While Grasso is 9,300, which equates to 11,100 in the old pricing. I don't know that Grasso is. She might be a cash play. She's a pretty heavy favorite, one of the heaviest favorites in the card. But I don't think she has a ton of upside for like a first or second round finish. I think that would be pretty surprising if she got Clark out of there early. I think it's more likely that if she gets her out of there, it's by like she just wears her down and she's beaten her down completely by the later round, by like the third round or so. So I think Grasso is more of a GPP play for that reason. Not that I'll have a ton of exposure to her. Again, I don't think that she is super likely to get an early finish, but if she's able to keep the fight out in space, she should rack up a ton of points with her striking and possibly get a late finish, like I said. And so she could pay off that way, but so limited exposure here, I think, in all formats for Grasso. I don't really see much for Clark, so I probably won't be playing her.
All right, I love it. Let's move on. Next fight of the evening is Beneil Dariush versus Rashid Magomedov. Dariush is a southpaw Muay Thai black belt. First, I'm going to go with the pick first. I'm going to go with Magomedov in this fight. And I've been using the term point fighter quite a bit, but I don't think there's anyone that defines the term better than Magomedov. He's 4-0 in the UFC. He's super technically sound on his feet. He could be the most technically sound striker in that division. He's a super efficient counter striker. His takedown defense is outstanding. But he looks to win the fight on the cards. He doesn't really go for that finish. He fights the safe fight, and I think he's going to do that again this weekend against Dariush. Dariush is a black belt in Muay Thai. He's a southpaw. Body kicks, head kicks, power left leg kicks. He keeps his hands quite low, which could bode well for Magomedov. He has a really hard overhand right. He struggles with length and fighting from range sometimes. He likes to shoot for doubles and singles when he gets his opponents up against the fence, but Magomedov has proven that he has excellent takedown defense. As always, he's really active with his knees, as all Muay Thai guys are. Elbows, punches in the clinch. He's got good control. So, yeah, I'm going to go with Magomedov in this fight. Magomedov comes in at 8,400, and Dariush is 7,800. That would equate to $10,000 for Magomedov and 9,300. I like Magomedov to take this by decision, so he's going to be mainly a cash play for me. But since I think this goes to decision. If you want to save some money and pay up for some finishes, I think Dariush makes a good cash play as well for some salary relief. If you could squeak out a win, that's great. But if you squeak out, 65, 70 points out of them and a loss, you still got a shot to cash in your double ups and your head-to-heads. So I'm going to go with Magomedov in this one. I haven't looked at the odds yet. Let's see what they say.
I got you. Magomedov is a minus 135 favorite, while Dariush is plus 115 as the underdog, and the over-under is at 2.5 rounds, and the over is at minus 175. So, like you said, favored to go the distance.
Okay. So, yeah, it's about what I expected. So, plug Magomedov in your cash games in this one. I don't see a finish in this fight, so I'm going to fade it in GPP, but I think it's a good cash game play.
Okay. So, what's next? Oliveira and Lamas is next up on the lineup. I like Lamas in this fight as so he was supposed to be fighting BJ Penn a couple weeks ago. That would have been a pretty easy win for him. He's getting a much better matched fight here against Oliveira. Should be very entertaining. Both guys are sort of Oliveira, I think, is like a kill or be killed kind of guy. He's got a lethal submission game, but he's got severe durability problems, and he's very hittable. He's aggressive in just about every phase, and so that leaves him to getting tagged. He's very upright in his stance, so his body's wide open to getting hit. He's been knocked out several times in the UFC, and I think Lamas could do the trick again, but I'm going to pick Lamas to take a decision here. I think that the grappling is going to be kind of a wash. Lamas himself is a black belt in jiu-jitsu and is another opportunistic submission guy. He's tapped out Cub Swanson, and who else did he tap out? That was a really good grappler. I'm blanking right now, but anyway, Lamas has legit submission skills. He's probably the better wrestler, although I think Oliveira is kind of underrated in that area. But I think Lamas' durability, his ability to strike better from the outside without getting tagged too much, is going to kind of set him apart here. I think he'll be able to kind of stay out of when it's on the feet. I think that he'll be able to use his range and his kicks to stay out of Oliveira's wheelhouse while tagging Oliveira, and I think the grappling is going to end up being kind of a wash. But I think this is more of a GPP play. Even though I like Lamas to take a decision, that's like my fight pick. I think this is more of a GPP play than a cash play. Both guys come in at 8,100, which is like even money. So that would be 9,700 in the old pricing. But I just don't think either one of them is a safe cash play since it is so even. You're not really getting any value there. The fight is a pick'em. According to Vegas, it's at minus 110 going both ways. But the over-under is at 1.5 rounds, and it's minus 220 to go over. So a second, third round finish is a possibility here for sure. So like I said, Oliveira has tapped very, very good grapplers before in Hatsuyoki, Nick Lentz. So he could do the same to Lamas. Lamas has also done kind of the same. So, and when Lamas is in top position, he's absolutely murderous with elbows. His finish of Eric Koch was truly frightening. So he could get on top of Oliveira and do the kind of the same thing. So if he finished Oliveira, I wouldn't be surprised at all. So GPP play for me in this one. Should be a very exciting fight.
All right, man, that sounds good. Do we want to go to the Sanchez Held fight, or do we want to go to the Claudio Martin Bravo fight?
Go to the Sanchez Held. I think the TUF Latin America finale is technically the co-main event, so we'll do that after that.
All right, I'm going to dive into this one. Where are we at here? Marcin Held versus Diego. He's bringing back the Nightmare Sanchez for this fight. I possibly could call this fight the fight of the night. You know how Diego Sanchez is. He loves to brawl and get in there and let it all out there. He prefers to do that. Held wants to take this thing to the ground and end it. Diego has struggled recently with his takedown defense, and I think that is a huge issue in this fight. Held does have the experience. He's fought in Bellator for a long time. So that's really not going to be an issue. And I think the younger Held is going to take down Diego, possibly lock in a submission. But Sanchez does have solid submission defense, so that could be a difficult task. Sanchez is a brawler. His gas tank is never ending. He fought at UFC 200 and got smashed by Josh's favorite, Joe Lozon. He's got a solid chin. He still takes big shots. He eats them. He just goes forward, forward, forward. And he likes to goat his opponents into wars. That's where he, really thrives. There's really nothing exceptional about his game, but when he gets hit or when he gets rocked, he tends to be at his most dangerous and starts brawling. And, that's always good for Diego, never good for the other guy. He's a capable grappler. He's got a really quick sprawl. Excellent takedown defense against the fence. In the center of the octagon, he does tend to give up takedowns quite easily. His takedown defense is quite average. But on the ground, he does have slick transitions and really good escapes. Marcin Held, he's 24 years old. He's a UFC newcomer, but he's 22-4. He made his name in Bellator, so he has that experience. He's eerily similar to Diego. He's not afraid to brawl. Sets up his takedowns with pressure on the feet. He's got some big power in his hands. But he wants to fight on the ground, like I said. He's a submission specialist. If he gains a favorable position, he is very, very patient and looking for an opening. He has unorthodox takedowns, and he looks for the takedown quickly. His favorite submission is the leg lock. But I did notice when he goes for that, he leaves himself vulnerable quite often. And Diego could, lay some leather on his face if he can't get the submission. I'm going to say Held via decision in this fight based on what I just told you guys about. I think they're both brawlers. Diego has solid submission defense. If he does get taken down, which I think he will, Held still has a chance to end it on the feet, and so does Diego. But I think Held is the better fighter here, and I think he wins this fight via decision. So let's take a look at Vegas odds. Diego is plus 210, and Marcin Held is minus 280. It is favored. What?
All right, I was just going to say, while you're looking that up, I just want to say I'm super excited to see Held in the UFC. Big fan of his from Bellator, so I think this is a obviously winnable fight for him for sure. Looking forward to seeing what he can do. Anyway, go ahead. Sorry.
Yes, Held is minus 280. Sanchez is plus 210. It's favored to go over 2.5 rounds at minus 160. Held comes in at $9,000, which is the equivalent to $10,008, and Sanchez is $8,600. Or I mean $7,200, which is the equivalent to $8,600. Held, I think, wins this fight via decision. So that being said, I'm going to fade him in most formats. Maybe a GPP one-off here and there, but he's not going to be one of my core plays because for 10-8, I want to finish, and I just don't see Diego getting finished. Sanchez is 8,600. He could be a cheap cash game play if it's going to go to decision, and he's always a GPP play. You could make an argument to play either of these guys in GPP because, Sanchez is getting up there in age. He was just finished by Joe Lozon. But I think the safe bet here for 10-8 or 9,000, is to fade this fight. I think it's going to go to a decision. So I'm probably going to fade it. Maybe have a few one-off GPPs here and there.
Yeah, I agree with you. Sanchez hasn't finished a fight in forever, so him finishing Held would be very surprising. And Sanchez ate a bunch of flush shots from Lozon to get finished for the first time in his career. So Held's not really that kind of a striker, that powerful. So yeah, finish here I think is pretty unlikely. So I'm with that. I'm with all that. So excuse me, we got the TUF Latin America now, which is featuring Martin Bravo versus Claudio Puelles, I guess you'd call those, or that's how you say that. So I think Puelles is the more technical, better fighter in pretty much every phase, but I'm going to end up picking Bravo here. Let me tell you why. I I think that Puelles is uncomfortable being pressured. He looks like an out fighter who he either wants to be all the way out or all the way in. The guy who's billed on the show from the little of it that I watched, I just pretty much fast forwarded to the fight to try to just get a read on these guys and didn't really obviously watch. I'm not going to, I'm having a hard time getting through the American TUF show, let alone trying to watch TUF Latin America the whole way through. Anyway, but Bravo was the guy who was billed on the show as a wrestling like expert or whatever. That was like his background. But Puelles looked way better as a wrestler. I mean, he was picking dudes up and slamming them to the mat, like picking them all the way up in the air and high amplitude double legs, while Bravo was kind of trying to like drag their his opponents to the mat. And he was successful in that, but he wasn't dominant like Puelles was. Puelles also showed off a pretty good submission game. He got a knee bar in this like scramble in one of his fights, while Bravo was trying to like jump on people's backs and like sliding off and giving up position, just kind of like making rookie mistakes. They're both super young. Puelles is only 20 and Bravo is 22. So they've got a lot of times when you see really young guys like this, they make really big leaps going from the show to the actual finale, and then like after the finale they make really big leaps because they're so young and developing so fast. But going off of what we've seen, like I said, Puelles, again, he even looks better on the feet. He's a really good kicker, while Bravo is pretty solid on the feet. He can do a good job of slipping and ripping at times, but he also can get really wild when his opponent doesn't really like play into his game. But the reason I like Bravo here is because Puelles does not look comfortable being pressured on the feet. He wants to be like I said, all the way out. He wants to kick from range, and when people get in his face, he just doesn't look very comfortable. So if Bravo can, I'm going to kind of say here that he can kind of use his wrestling to stay upright for the most part, or get up when he's taken down, and he's going to stay in Puelles' face and put hands on him. And when he's able to like establish a rhythm, Bravo, he is a pretty good striker, pretty good boxer, while Puelles hasn't really shown much of his hands. He doesn't punch a whole lot. He's like really kick-centric. So I like Bravo to take a decision, but it's going to be close. I concede that. So you want to hit the prices, or do you want me to grab that?
I can run through them. Bravo is 8,200, and Puelles is 8,000.
Okay, so pretty evenly priced, and the odds are also pretty close. Puelles is a slight favorite at -115. Bravo is a very slight underdog at -105. Over-unders at 2.5 rounds, and the over is at -200. So favored to go the distance. As such, I think it's these guys are too kind of young, and like I said, it's kind of hard to pick either one of these guys in cash just because there's so much variance there. Coming off of TUF, it's hard to kind of know what you're going to get. So it's sort of hard to pick a cash play here. I think Puelles I think if one of them finishes, it's going to be Puelles. Like I said, he's got an opportunistic submission game, and is, like I said, better technical, all like in pretty much every phase. Just doesn't look like he likes getting backed up, which is why I'm picking Bravo to win. But I think Puelles is the play in GPPs.
All right, I love it. Is it time?
Main event time?
It is main event time, buddy. Have at it.
Okay. I'm kind of curious to what you think about this fight too, but I'll go at it first. So I like starting off with my pick. I like RDA in this one, despite him coming off of that devastating loss to Eddie Alvarez. I just don't think Ferguson has it for Dos Anjos. Ferguson is super aggressive everywhere, all the time, but he's also pretty dang hittable. He just kind of overwhelms guys by, he's hittable, but he's also super durable. So he just kind of stays in people's faces like the entire time until they wilt. and he doesn't. I just have a hard time seeing that happen with Dos Anjos. Dos Anjos did get caught by Alvarez in his last fight, but even under like a hellacious barrage of punches from Eddie, Dos Anjos didn't go down. The ref just had to wave it off eventually because Alvarez just kept connecting and connecting and connecting again and again and again. But out of the two of them, Ferguson is the one who's more hittable. Dos Anjos is as well, but I think he's just more polished in just about every area. Ferguson is long. His best attributes are his awkwardness, his toughness, his length, and his power. Those are the things that he's really best at, and none of those really equate to like just straight up skills. I think Dos Anjos is more skilled than him in almost every area, but Ferguson is just super funky and tough and hits really hard, and that's what I think that's kind of what's bred his long winning streak more than anything else. I mean, obviously he's skilled. You don't go on an 8-fight winning streak or whatever it is in the lightweight division in the UFC without having some skill. But I think Dos Anjos is the better wrestler. Ferguson has a tendency to kind of like do weird, funky stuff on the ground, like roll for leg locks while they're standing, or try to like roll out of a rear waist lock. He doesn't mind fighting off of his back. That's death against Dos Anjos. Dos Anjos has one of the best top games in the division. He's absolutely murder on top, suffocating, powerful strikes. He's obviously he came into the UFC as a jiu-jitsu expert, and he's been in the UFC for freaking forever. So he's got excellent grappling skills. So Ferguson trying to do a darce off of his back or something like that, that's not going to fly against Dos Anjos. So Ferguson's dangerous as long as he's in there, but I like Dos Anjos to just keep kind of hitting him and eventually taking him out in the middle to later rounds. Maybe like I think I picked third round as my official pick. But yeah, give me Dos Anjos. What do we got on the prices?
We'll go odds first.
Okay.
Dos Anjos is -145. Ferguson's +115. And the over-under is at 3.5 rounds. It's favored to go over at -140. Salaries, we got Tony Ferguson coming in at 7,900 and Dos Anjos is at 8,300. So I'm going to screen share here as you're talking about this, and we'll kind of talk about this last fight, and then we'll build a cash game lineup real quick here. Or I mean a GPP lineup. We don't have much time left, but
yeah, sounds good. So I think this is an ideal fight. I mean, not quite ideal because it's not. I don't think it's favored to go the distance. I'm sorry, I missed your odds to go the distance here. Over -3.5. Yeah, okay. Over 3.5 rounds. So it's supposed to go into the middle or later rounds at least. But I think it's a good fight to stack in cash. I think there's gonna be a ton of volume here, both now with the new like more points for grappling with the new DraftKings pricing or point system, I should say. I think it's just gonna be points everywhere here. Points for grappling, points for wrestling, points for striking. I think it's gonna be a ton of points. It's gonna be super active as long as the fight lasts. So I think because that makes a good cash play. Both guys are pretty closely priced. And I think you're going to end up with a finish one way or the other. So I like cash for a stack here. I don't know if I would play one of them in cash. I think if I was going to do it in cash, I would just stack it because Ferguson is very dangerous. If Dos Anjos has cracked his chin from the Alvarez fight, that could be bad, obviously. But anyway, I think these guys are also both in play in GPPs. Neither one of them is super expensive, and they're both likely to rack you up pretty solid points, and one of them is going to get a finish, I think. So that's sort of how I look at it. I'll lean more toward Dos Anjos. Like I said, I think he wins, but Ferguson is live.
good stuff. All right, let's start building the GPP here real quick. Would you say Sam Alvey would be the first place we start?
Yeah.
Okay, let's get him in there. So we have 8,100 average for 5 fighters left. Where do you want to go to next?
Okay. Give me Polo Reyes.
Where's he at? There he is. Okay.
And give me Soto. And you like Arantes, and he's cheap, so let's take him. What else you got?
We might have to pay down on one of these guys.
Briones is a cheap guy. He's at only 7,600, which equates to 9,100. He's a guy I like to win, and he's pretty cheap. I don't like him necessarily to finish, but
I mean, well, when you're salary relief, I'll take a win.
Yeah.
What if we throw Dos Anjos in there?
Yeah, I'm all about it.
I mean, the guy's a champion for a reason. He was a champion.
Mm-hmm. And he looked poised to dominate the division for a while. So, yeah, I mean, he's very good. What are we at?
That's it. That's our lineup. Alvey, Reyes, Soto, Arantes, Briones, and Dos Anjos.
Okay.
Six guys that we like. Leaves you $100 on the table. Don't be afraid to leave money on the table, guys. If you play GPPs and anything else, if you use all your dollars, you're most likely going to have an identical lineup to somebody else. So,
yeah, I think that's hopefully. I mean, I think part of the reason that they made the lineup 6 fighters now instead of 5 is to try to cut down on that some, right? So
and they added more value to takedowns
and grappling and stuff.
Yeah, because on the feet was the clear-cut favorite. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, all right, guys. Well, hopefully you learned something. We will be back at it next week for UFC 205. Big card. Tell everybody. Josh is going to tell you a little bit about something we got planned for next week. So, yeah, I'll turn it over to him.
Okay, so we are going to try to start raising funds through Patreon, try to not do this podcast at a loss, which is what we've been doing. In terms of we would, if we're not
overhead
making
costs,
right, yeah, if we're not making a ton of money doing the podcast, I mean, obviously that's what we would expect, but we also don't want it to be costing us money, which is what it's doing right now. We have to pay for a SoundCloud account that, because the free one doesn't give us enough space to hold very many podcasts. So we want to just try to we'd like to eventually get nicer microphones, give you guys some better audio quality, just up the quality of our podcast in general. So we're going to be getting on Patreon. I'm working on setting that up now. So it should be ready in the coming days, but we'll definitely have that ready to go for next week for 205. In terms of stuff that we got, or that I got coming out this week, I'm doing a full fight breakdown preview thing on Low Kick this week. Hopefully, if I can get that finished up here very quickly, that should be coming out. So check that out. I used to do something kind of similar to that on Roto Grinders, but my editor at Low Kick wanted to take a shot at doing a full breakdown, and so I'm super excited about that. So give that a read, but also have the Roto Grinders blog for the picks and stuff, just so you can see that more quickly in one place rather than trying to decipher it all from the podcast if you're kind of crunched for time. So check that out. You can go to rotogrinders.com, do an opponent search, JDS86 is my handle on there. Anything else?
No, man. Thanks for listening in, guys. Hopefully we provided you with a little insight on the card this weekend. Follow us on Twitter at Daily Fantasy KO. Follow me at Houdini16. Follow Josh at Stonewall MMA. That's all we got for you today. We'll be back at it for UFC 205. We're probably going to get it out Wednesday. So hopefully we get a whole bunch of listeners like we did for 200, I think it was.
202 is the one that really went off, I think.
Yeah, we had a couple hundred listeners, so thank you for that. Hopefully you guys will be back for more. For my co-host Josh, I'm Drew. Thanks for listening. We'll see you next week. Peace.
Peace.